Welcome to one of the most wonderful journeys you will ever take in your life. The journey towards liberation, expansion, freedom, abundance, empowerment, unconditional love, peace, joy, healing, and a long list of other wonderful things. It is quite literally a rebirth, whereby your small, conditioned, limited self will step aside and make way for the grand, divine, unlimited, unconditioned you. That indeed is the purpose of this journey. The purpose of these exercises is to train your mind to a different perception of everything in your world. Now, you might be asking, a different perception of everything? But I don't want to change everything. I only wish to change my finances, or the problems I have at work, or my family problems, or my weight issues. Okay, I get that. However, everything is connected and related. Let me ask you this. How many diets might you have tried? Let's say if you're one of those people who have been trying to lose weight, how many diets have you tried? Or if you're one of those people trying to fix their money problems, how many money-making or financial freedom gimmicks or courses have you taken? Or how many relationship courses and seminars have you attended? Now, consider this. How many of those had a major, permanent, and profound impact that not only solved your problem once and for all, but also added immensely to your life? How many? Well, I don't know about you, but I tried many of them. And most didn't really give me the big advertised boost and solution that I expected. Yes, the information in them was, for the most part correct and all that, If it was a money-making course, a lot the information was correct, okay? If it was a dieting course, the information was correct. But something somewhere just didn't click. And so, even if I knew what to do, I couldn't do it. For some reason, I couldn't do it. I mean, I'd maybe start, and I might do that for a week or two or something, and then I'll just go back to my old, same old. It's like I was sucked in. I had gravity to go back to what I was, to my, in quotes, normal way of life, you see? I mean, I'd end up eventually doing what I don't want to do, what I know I shouldn't be doing, and I would end up not doing what I really want to do. I'd end up seeing the world in my old conditioned ways, even when I knew the theory in all those courses and books that I'd read and attended and seminars I'd attended and so on. Something somewhere didn't click. You know what I mean? Have you experienced something similar? I mean, have you taken lots of courses, read lots of books, attended lots of seminars and events, watched and listened to lots of materials, and you know all the theory, and it all makes sense, but somehow it just isn't sticking, and it just isn't applying to you personally like you hoped it would, and it just isn't bringing the results that everybody else seems to be getting? Something somewhere just didn't click or doesn't click. You know what I mean? Well, keep listening, and by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why this happens, and exactly why the only solution is to train your mind to a different perception of everything in the world. You will transform from victim to master, and the mountains that you see before you blocking your way will be reduced to sand that you walk upon. This is much more profound than solving a single diet or a finance or a relationship problem. Okay, what we're about to do here is much more profound. Can you see now the game level that we are talking about? We are talking here of unleashing your divine sovereign self and rising above this small, limited self-concept that has these small problems that it then mistakes for mountains. What I'm trying to say is that your small, limited self-concept has problems, which are actually small problems, but when it's facing them, they look like mountains. They're big and they're stuck. They can't move. But we're going to change all that. Instead of trying to figure out and solve the mountain or the problem, what we're going to do is allow that small limited self-concept to step aside and to allow the divine sovereign self that you are to take over. And all of a sudden, those mountains, those big mountains that were so big and so immovable will automatically become sand that you walk on like on the beach, you know? Now, before we proceed, here's a warning. These exercises will very likely not make sense to you unless you have gone through the subconscious revealed, specifically the videos on the quantum nature of reality and the human being. A theoretical foundation such as the subconscious revealed is necessary as a background to make these exercises meaningful. Yet it is the exercises which will make the goal of peace and oneness and freedom possible. In other words, the theory plus the exercises require each other. So make sure you have at least gone through the first half of the subconscious revealed, the first 2 major modules at the bare minimum, okay? So make sure you've gone through those 2 at least, and before you start on this course of the exercises themselves, of training the mind to a different perception of everything in your world. Otherwise, the exercises, if done by themselves without the theoretical foundations that you find in the subconscious revealed, they likely won't make sense, and so they likely will not work as well as they would have had you gone through the subconscious revealed, okay? So please do that. It's for your own benefit. Okay, so let's proceed. In this video, I wish to introduce you to a few foundational concepts, and then later on in subsequent audios and videos, we shall get into the actual training itself. You need these foundational concepts that we're going to talk about here, however, so that you can make better use of the exercises that are coming. So let's learn the foundations. Again, at the risk of repeating myself, this is still assuming that you've already gone through at least the first half of the subconscious revealed, the first 2 modules, okay? The first 2 courses in that main course called the subconscious revealed. So here are the foundations that we need to consider. The first concept that I wish to suggest to you is that you are always being informed. Think about it. What is thought? You're always thinking, aren't you? Well, what is that? Well, thought is many things, but one thing it definitely is that it is a concept about reality. Look at your thoughts. They are concepts about reality, aren't they? For example, what is an apple? What is a husband or a wife? What is a child? What is cancer or the flu or AIDS? What is a good day? What is a bad day? As I say these words, you're having thoughts about them, and these thoughts are giving you concepts of reality. And based on your concepts of reality, you act, you feel, you experience life. Your concept of reality drives your life more than any course or book or seminar that you will attend. Your program concepts of reality always drive your life, and they always win. They always win because no matter how many courses or seminars or whatever that you attend, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, you will tend to fall back to your programmed concepts of reality. So even if you attend 10 seminars, okay, after a few days, when the buzz of the seminar is over, your program concept of reality will likely take over again and dominate. I mean, you've been doing it for years, decades maybe, and this seminar was just, or this book was just like a few days or a few hours. So guess what's gonna win? You know what I mean? The programming almost always wins. And that is why all these books and seminars end up not helping you as much as they could, because you haven't changed the core program, the core of how you see life and how you see yourself. So the question is, who gave you your concept of reality? That is the first question. Who is informing you? That's a big one. Take a moment and process that. Secondly, is that information accurate? You have inherited much information about what it means to be in this world and what you think you are. This is called conditioning, and that is the problem. Conditioning is the problem. The information that is informing you could be inaccurate and self-limiting, even though it seems like it's a fact. You see what you see. You interpret it based on what you are taught, based on your belief system. You might be from New York, for example, and you might go to China, for example, to a village, and you might see them doing and living and thinking about life in a way that you've never even considered, yet it works for them, and it is so alien for you. Do you start to see that what you think is a fact of life is merely a local belief about life? You, just like most of us, are literally someone who knows himself or herself through data. And this is the point I'm trying to make here. You, if you're like most of us, know yourself through data. You are being informed, and you know yourself through data. You see and interpret through the frameworks that you have been fed since your birth. Conditioning. All that you see and interpret is through the filters of your conditioning. Your conditioning is literally a filter that kicks everything else out except what is familiar to it. You are someone who knows themselves through data, and that, my dear friend, is the problem. The problem that we wish to solve here. Let me clarify what I mean by someone who knows themselves through data. You see, you have expectations about what it means to be a woman or a man, correct? I mean, you can see this, right? You do have expectations about what it means to be a woman or a man, don't you? And you believe that your expectations are correct, or at least close to being correct. You might even believe that they are facts about life. But where did you get those expectations from? And are you 1000% sure they are true? Yes, you might feel righteous about them. You might even feel correct about them. But are they true? There is a massive difference between true and correct, or true and appropriate, or true and that's just the way we've always lived as long as I can remember. That's just the way things are. You know, there's a massive difference between that and true. Let's see how else you know yourself through data. What do you know about age? About growing old? About being young? What about sex? About being male, being female, being straight, being gay, being bisexual? What about geographic location? What do you know about being European, African, American, Australian, Asian, Chinese, from New York, from the Bronx? Being Texan, being Kenyan, being from Sydney. Maybe you're from New York or Nairobi. Doesn't matter. But what do you tell yourself that this means? And what do you tell yourself that it means that the other people who are not from where you are like, or whatever? What about your height? What have you been told about your height, or what do you believe about it? What about your race, your religion, your nationality, your life story, your tribe, your position at work, and so on? All that is data. Do you see now that you are one who knows themselves through inherited data, through conditioning, through programs? And do you see how your conditioning came from your limited set of circumstances while growing up, in the way that you grew up, in the environment that you grew up in? And do you see how that this is a tiny limited way to know yourself through? I mean, there is a whole universe out there. So why should you agree to be trapped by such a tiny but persistent set of programming when you can be free and experience the vastness of your universal being? I'll tell you why. because it keeps you safe, or at least it makes you feel safe, makes you feel like you belong, makes you feel like you're right and in control. I mean, all that you see and act upon and feel is informed by a self-concept and a world concept that was inherited from those who came before you, those who brought you up, those who made you feel love and fear. The consequence of this is that what you see, what you feel, and what you do is in many ways bound to a history, a limited idea of self and life, and that was passed on from others who in turn also inherited the same limitations and consequences. I hope you have already completed the Know Thyself exercises from the previous module in this course. If you have, go back and look again at all that you wrote, and this time ask yourself where you got the ideas or beliefs behind what you wrote in those exercises. I am sure you will find some very interesting insights when you review your life story from this perspective. In fact, pause this video and go get your notes and have a look at them again before continuing. Okay? Pause now. I mean this. Pause now and go do that. Go get those notes and then come back here. Okay, how did that go? When you reviewed your notes, what did you discover? Did you find something interesting? Some interesting insights into what we are talking about here? Good. Let's proceed. Now, here is the big one. The challenge you face today, now listen carefully, this is a big one. The challenge you face today is that you are walking around with precognition on just about everything. Precognition, which is to say that you have already been informed on just about everything in your life, and you have already pre-decided on just about everything in your life, especially on the reasons about who and what you are. It means that when you walk into a room, you have already been preconditioned as to what you're going to see, do, think about in that room based on what you encounter there. The unlearning of this is the world that we are about to get into. That's the work we are about to do, so that we can allow the unlimited multidimensional divine self to take the place of one who informs you, instead of having the limited conditioned ego to be your informant. Do you see where we are going with this? We are replacing the source of your information from a limited old conditioned source to an unlimited multidimensional ever new source, one that has no history and one that has no conditioning, and this one is your true being. Your true being has no history. Your true being is an infinite self and knows who and what she is in a divine higher way that is not conditioned and limited by the trauma or crisis that you experienced when you were 4 years old, or by what your mother or husband said about you last week, or by what your country or economy was going through when you were 2 or 12 years old, and so on. Your true being is unlimited, and if you choose it now, your true being can begin to inform you. Do you see the power in this? Your true being is very different from your conditioned, data-driven, limited self. Can you see this? Okay, are you ready for another big one? Great. Now, if you have watched the episode on quantum energy and the one on beliefs, both from the subconscious revealed, you will recall that quantum energy literally manifests our entire lives from our beliefs, correct? And now here is another big idea. All of this is an illusion, a hologram, literally. What I mean is that quantum energy is quite literally creating your life around you as a hologram. And if you recall from the module on quantum energy, you realize that everything that you consider physical, all the things and objects and events in your life, all of those things are 99.999999% space. And that's the hologram. And this hologram is changing 50 billion times per second. Okay? So all of the things that you can see and experience that you believe have harmed you and have disfigured you in any way, limited you in any way, damaged you in any way, they are actually not real. And here is the big one. Your true being cannot, I repeat, cannot be harmed or changed in any way by those things. Indeed, your true being is the source of all those things, the source of your power, the source of the dark and light in all that you see around you, and all of it, Your true being is source energy. In fact, it is the source of the quantum field around you. Your true being is eternally infinite and unlimited and cannot be harmed. But your small self-concept believes that he or she can be harmed. And indeed, your small self-concept does experience harm. But it is not real. It is said that nothing real can be threatened, nothing real exists, and therein lies the peace of God, or the peace of that which you really are. By the way, when I say peace, I mean, like go in peace, like P-E-A-C-E. I know my pronunciation is not perfect, but so sometimes I have to spell what I say. So I'll read that again. And so when I say peace, I mean, that serenity, peace, the feeling, the guaranteed safety, peace, P-E-A-C-E. Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists, and therein lies the peace of God, the peace of that which you really are. The illusions that give you problems are simply things that you have invested in and decided they were real. And so, by the power vested in you and the system that is quantum, the world you see agrees with what you say is true, and you see what you think should be there, and you don't see what you think should not be there. Everything you see before you is a creation of consciousness, your consciousness, and the consciousness of all those who have come before you and are with you today, now, in your history and your ancestry. Nothing is real. That is the system. That is the game. And here is the third big idea. Because who you really are is your true being. The thing that causes you problems in your life is not the actual problems themselves. Not at all. The real problem is that you have mistaken yourself for your history and your conditioning. You have denied your true self and embraced your limited history and conditioning as who you are. And your true self allows this to happen because that is simply part of the game of life. And this is what we call the illusion of separation. Separation from your divine self, your true being. And at this juncture, I would like us to claim our true being, as this is the first step in giving ourselves permission to drop our conditioning and embrace who we really are. And as we claim this, I shall use the word source to mean your true being, but you can use any word that you're comfortable with, such as creator, source energy, word, God, Christ, and so on. Whatever you're comfortable with. By the way, when I say the word Christ, what I mean is the Creator manifested in form as you. I'm not referring to the personality known as Joshua ben Joseph, who was later on referred to as Jesus the Christ. Instead, when I say Christ, from here on in, I mean source energy manifested in form as you. Your true being manifested in form as you, with full conscious acknowledgement of who you really are, what you really are. Anyways, please say this claim aloud with me, using whatever word feels best for you. Here we go. I am source through my body. I am source through my vibration. I am source through knowing myself as source. Source, I am source. Now, I borrowed that phrase, by the way, from the Book of Knowing and Worth by Paul Selig. It is an awesome book, and I do advise you to get the audio version of it. but you can also get the print or the Kindle version, whichever you prefer. Let's say that one more time. This time I'll say it a little bit different. I am source through my body. Source, I am source. I am source through my vibration. Source, I am source. I am source through knowing of myself as a source. Source, I am source. Now, when you make the claim that we just made, you are indeed aligning your systems, such as your body, the aura, and energy systems, the identity, and so on, to the true self. You are aligning and giving permission for that to proceed. You are literally beginning to let go of your old limited self. You do not need to know how this will happen. In fact, this is not the job of your personality. It's not the job of your limited self to do, or even to know how it's done. Your job is simply to give permission, and then it is done. It's now for your true self to take over and do the rest. When you make the claim that you just made, you are automatically anchoring your frequency to your true self, and the rest begins to happen by itself, and the Creator begins informing you as you in the best way possible for you, depending on where you are now. This is very personal. My experience is going to be very different from your experience. Literally, your true being begins to use your life as it is here now, as it is. All aspects of it, all of them are used by your true being to reveal to you who you really are. Yes, even the tiniest mundane details of your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, are all used towards this goal. And now it is time for a warning. A warning? Yes, of course. I mean, if what I'm talking of is easy, everyone would have done it by now, and we wouldn't even be talking about this right now. Okay? But let me clarify. What we are talking about is simple. It is indeed probably the simplest thing you can possibly do, because in truth, it is actually done for you. Your true self does it for you. Okay? All you have to do is give permission and ask for it. That's it. So in that way, it is simple. But that doesn't necessarily make it easy. Simple, yes. Easy, maybe not. And the difficulty comes in because of this. Listen carefully so that you know what to expect. Listen. When you decide to embrace your true self, the aspects of your ego self that you have up to this point invested great importance in, all of those, they'll all come forward to deny your worth as a divine being, as your true self. And they will do this for one reason and one reason only, and that is to maintain their influence and validity. And that, my friend, is called resistance. For you see, all consciousness, whether real or illusion, has a motive and the desire to continue to grow. All consciousness has a desire to keep going. Even lies wish to perpetuate themselves. Have you noticed that? Even lies wish to be held as valid. Even lies want to be known as the truth and they want to keep going. Okay? Even lies like to keep control of their territory. Haven't you ever noticed that? So that is a warning that I wanted to give you, that you need to expect that the aspects of yourself that you have up until this point invested in, they're going to try and stay alive. And so they're going to try and convince you that you really aren't this divine thing you're talking about. Okay? But that is okay. Do not use this material to fight yourself or hate yourself or harm yourself in any way, or to criticize yourself for this resistance or any of it, you know. Have compassion for yourself even as you witness this resistance that we're talking about. And as sure as the sun rises every morning, as each day goes by, as you practice the exercises that you're about to receive here, you shall start to notice, a little at first, and then more and more, you will start to notice that the world is starting to become malleable, flexible, changeable, like a dream. You know, when you dream at night, have you noticed that your dream is so flexible, malleable, changeable? Your waking life will become that, just like that. You know, more or less, okay? Not exactly, but more or less, you know. And Slowly but surely, and with increasing rapidity, with increasing speed and power, you will start to bend your reality and see it change as a sure extension or manifestation of your new consciousness. It may initially start slow, but soon enough, when you're ready, it will pick up speed, and the changes can be so rapid that you will be pleasantly amazed. For you see, at the moment, with your problems and challenges, what you're actually facing is but one single problem, with many heads. Only one. And this single problem is one that has the face of millions of other problems that you see. So you might think that you have many problems, but you actually have one problem with many faces. When you solve this single mother of all problems, all the other problems vanish. And this single problem is actually a crisis of a belief in separation from source, which you feel or experience as this sense of yourself in separation from your source. By the way, I want to clarify something. When I say that all your other problems vanish, they don't vanish in the way that you think they'll disappear. In other words, your life doesn't become one without challenges or without variations or without dualities of any kind. Instead, those changes or those variations or those dualities no longer pose what in your mind is a problem. You become author, creator instead of victim. Okay? So I don't want you to have a fairy tale expectation about this. All I can tell is just great. It's amazingly great. Okay? So let's move on. And here now, we are going to be giving ourselves the permission to heal this single problem, this crisis. Let's call it that. We're going to have the divine as you. That aspect of you who knows who she is and what she is, we're going to have that aspect of you now come forward to start informing you, to start informing your sight, your hearing, your mind, your feelings, your beliefs, your actions, and so on. And in this way, it will heal the illusion of separation. In other words, your divine self, embodied as you, the man or the woman, is going to become active. In this way, you move from the sensation of being a victim of life to the experience of being a deliberate creator. Okay, to wrap this introduction up nicely, I now wish to read for you paraphrased quotes taken from a book called The Book of Mastery, channeled by Paul Selig. I encourage you to get that book, and in fact, get all the books by Paul Selig. And I don't know if he has written many books. What I do know is that there are about 4 of them that are channeled and all in this line of what we're talking about now. And he channels very well in that area. Okay, so the passages I'm going to paraphrase and read for you now illustrate beautifully the message that I am attempting to convey here. I think that book is far more eloquent than I currently am at this. So instead of me trying to explain things for you, let's just read together from the Book of Mastery by Paul Selig. And I quote, "You must not think that because you have been aligned at this level of vibration in a higher way, that your life will be what you think it should be. Too many of you think to yourselves, my divine self will give me a life that resembles something that I once read about. It means I will have the perfect mate, my children will excel in school, and I will get that raise that I've been planning on. Or far worse, many of you think, I will need nothing of the real world. I will live in spirit, and I will ignore the requirements of the physical plane that I find myself unfortunately attached to." What you are doing here is operating from a prescribed sense of self that you have invested in, that you appeal to come into manifestation because it's what you think should be there. Here is the truth. The divine self as you knows your true requirements, and the small self who has assumed what being spiritual means, or what enlightenment means, or understanding through others' examples what it seems to be, may not like what happens next. The journey that you are on is not always a smooth journey. The divestment of things is only one example of what will happen. In fact, what you are leaving behind is the investment in the small self, about what was so damn important, what you gave so much power to, or what you believed you should value because your world has told you to value. When the car comes to its natural stop and you get out and you look at the landscape, you will find yourself untethered, unbaggaged, free, if you wish, from those things that have caused so much weight. Now, here is the interesting thing. Some of you actually believe that if you go on this path, on this journey, you will lose what you require. What if I don't have employment? What happens to my husband or my wife if I go on this journey and they may disagree with me going on this journey? What happens to the things that I thought were so important? We will tell you this. There is nothing taken from you. You disregard what is true and put your weight into things that are not so true. The truth of who you are and the vibration of the true self, as we have said, will support you. The relationships that you have had and the things that you require to manifest to keep you safe may continue to do just what they have done as long as they are in accord with your true self and, if you wish, congruent to the journey you are calling to yourself. But we will ask you this. Please do not use this text as an opportunity to say, well, now I'm done with that. Clearly, I must quit my job or leave my spouse or forget about my responsibilities in physicality. That would also be presumptuous. Now, each lifetime has a map attached to it. Now, this is not a directive map, but it is a map of the things that you require to manifest or to encounter yourself through to bring you to the next station of consciousness. This does not mean bad things befall you. If you have a list of things that you must know or re-encounter or learn anew in a lifetime, the divine self as you will call into being that which is required to make it so. But we are telling you now that as the divine self calls into purview her manifestations, the way that you learn, the lessons you agree to learn, may come in very different ways. The trajectory of each lifetime, while it is known by you on a true level, the outline, perhaps, of what may be known as gifted to you at the conception of each life may be known, but the vibration you hold in many ways informs how the teaching will come. When you are operating in low vibration, you must call things to you that are in accord with that frequency. The action of fear, as we have taught you, is to create more fear. And when you are operating in fear and you claim fear, that becomes your teacher until you decide otherwise. When you move into the frequency of the light or the Christed self, as it is manifested as you, what it will call to you will be what it requires. The lessons may be the same, you see, but you may learn to cook a cake in a gutter or in a fine kitchen. It really depends on what you hold as your frequency. The truth of who you are, the divine self as you, can hold no fear, and you must understand this, that by going into agreement with truth at different levels, you may move the frequency that has obstructed its expression to the surface to be witnessed and released. Upon awakening, the first thing you say is, I am in alignment to truth. I am in alignment to truth in all that I perceive. The true self knows who she is. The mask she has worn up until today was an agreed upon mask. You know yourself through circumstance, and you know what you are supposed to be to adhere to the requirements of your culture or your family or the times that you exist in. The eternal self, if you wish, has been here a lot longer, knows much more, and does not self-identify through your hair color or your gender or your occupation or your role in society. It has no intention of limiting itself through the physical plane. Yes, this is not about disregarding the physical realm. Instead, this is to lift the physical realm to its true nature, and that is how the kingdom will be perceived. What will begin to happen is that the life that you lead will begin to reflect the awakened self who has come into being. What this requires of you, in a very simple way, is an acceptance of where you are in this moment. You must all understand that you can only be as you are. And we would like you to underline this. You can only be as you are. The acceptance of this, where you stand now, here, now, is what supports you in any kind of motion. What we are calling you is responsible for the self in two different ways. The divine self as you, the Christed self, if you wish, and the smaller self in identity who knows who she is through her experiences, her claims on this physical plane. As you stand in this moment and accept the self just as you are, you will begin to understand that there is nothing other than where you are. Nothing else. Nothing else may be known or understood outside of where you stand. It is only an illusion that there is a world beyond you. If you truly understand that the identity you hold, the aspect of the Creator, knows all and is in all. You are infinite, and the reality that you hold as an infinite being supersedes all other creations. As you know this to be so, your transition begins to occur with rapidity, and the awareness of change is so quick that it is as if you are being moved from one landscape to another, because in fact you are. The landscape that you know in the physical realm that was made in history and shared agreement of what should be there will be understood by you simply as a construct, something that was once said yes to. This sense of separation, you see, is very easy to describe because you are brought up in it. The understanding of union at the level of intellect may be brought to you, but it is the experience of it that we are calling to you through our series of teachings. The experience of union, we say, moves you outside of your understanding of time. And here is the big dilemma. Because you know yourself in time as a shared construct, knowing the eternal self who does not exist in time, and knowing union which is not in time, becomes something that moves you outside of the known, outside of what you currently know. You may ask, well, if that's impossible, how do we do it? And the answer, well, you do not do it. It is done through you. Understand this, everyone. The divine operates as and through you. You are not pulling the strings on the machine that will enlighten you. The auric field that you hold has actually been built in an awareness of her union. And the causal body, if you wish, in the field you hold, holds the awareness for you and is in union now in an awareness that you don't consciously know. In fact, what happens is the sense of division begins to move away. What you have borne witness to in separation becomes one. And as you change your mind about separation, you and yourself, you and your brother, you and those that you see before you, you increase in rapidity your own vibration. As you increase your own vibration, you may align to those things that exist in similar form, and here we call the kingdom into being. The false self will have a great investment in perpetuating herself. If you can imagine a woman at a party wearing a mask so tight that she has believed the mask to be her true face, you can understand that there may be fear at removing the mask because she does not know what is underneath. She might believe herself to be disfigured, or not lovable, or not beautiful in the way that the mask presents. In fact, that could be so, but it is never true. The divine exists within each of you, with each of you, and it is beautiful. And the true radiance of your beauty cannot shine forth when you mistake yourself for the mask that you wear. The abandonment of the false self, or we would say the small self, is not a true act. The small self, or the personality self, is very useful still as an aspect of who and what you are, so that you may know yourself in consort on this physical plane. What actually happens to the small self through this process is that she is aligned to her true nature, and the re-identification of the self in her glory is what transforms her world. Some of you decide that perhaps this is an exercise in self-abnegation, self-denial, self-loathing. I hate who I am. Let me be something else. And this is not the case of this teaching at all. The justification of the small self to be the ruler of the kingdom is diminished, and the true self calls into manifestation of what may be claimed as her true inheritance. The first step for any change is to see what is there and to realize that, for whatever reasons, you are party to its presence in its current form. Whatever tragedy you may be facing, or challenge or difficulty, you are aligned to it, and consequently, it is in alignment with you as the woman that you are, as a man that you are, as a conscious being. That does not mean you are a victim to it. That does not mean you have to like it or to want it, but it does mean you have to agree with it as a creation that you are party to. If you disengage your own authority to this thing you see before you, you are not party to it as one who can change her mind and choose in a new way. If you are looking to the physical realm to solve your problems, from here on you are going to be challenged in many ways. The attachment to the physical realm, which is a transient realm, is the first thing we are tending to, because unless you become unattached to this as your savior, you cannot liberate the self from the responsibility to claim the divine in her wisdom. There is no agreement when you are born that you should be separate. Do you understand this? You are acclimating to it. You have been conditioned to this separation. You are taught to be afraid. You are taught to be defended. You are taught to attack. But it is not your natural state. It is not a natural state. Do you understand this? The natural state is to be in union. When you see an infant, she knows exactly who she is, and everybody else as well. She has not been disciplined or indoctrinated into an agreement of separation. The divine as you is ever present as you regardless of what you think, and that is always the key, regardless of what you think. You think you are not divine. You think you are your fear. You think you are what happened to you, and you think the one beside you is this or that as well, and none of it is true. It is a way of knowing the self in interaction on the physical plane, but it holds a lower vibration. Now, the eyes of the divine hold no judgment. They do not perceive in fear, and they have no investment in being right or in making someone else wrong. The divine knows who she is. She is unafraid, and consequently, what she sees is the perfection that is inherent in all things. And we said all things intentionally, and that includes even something such as death, the death that you are so frightened of. If you could understand the inherent beauty in the transition that you call death, and the death that you all will make eventually, you would not be afraid of it. But so much has gone into protecting the self and the manifestations of the self that you can't even see who you are, and you are even afraid of death. End quote. Wow, wasn't that powerful? I thought it was powerful. Well, okay, so now we are ready to begin with our daily lessons. And to prepare ourselves for that, Please make this declaration aloud now with me. Here we go. I free myself of the fear of my encounter with my divine self. I free myself of the limited self that would hide from this encounter. And as I say yes to all that will be in this reckoning. I know who I am, I know what I am, I know how I serve. Congratulations, you have made a brave first step. You are now ready. Let the lessons begin.